Hey guys, it's Cassera, and today I'm going to be doing the reading habits tag. So first of all, thank you to Michael Knit for tagging me. I will link his channel down below so you guys can check it out. He has a great channel that I love watching, and I love discussing all of his reads because we read pretty similar books, at least when it comes to fantasy. And for this tag, I actually haven't really looked at the questions very much. I skimmed them a little bit while I was copying and pasting them. So if you see me looking down, it's because I grabbed my iPad to look up the questions. So this is gonna be a pretty quick video where I just kind of answer the questions. I actually really enjoy doing tags like this. I know it's been a while since I've done one, mostly because I always forget to tag other people, which, come to think of it, I didn't look up people to tag. But we'll get to that later, and we'll start with the questions. The first question is, do you have a certain place at home for reading? Yes and no. I do read a lot at home, and like my main place for reading physically, at least, is on my couch. You guys see it in my vlogs a lot, but I do read a lot in bed as well and in the bathtub. Like, I am very much a bubble bath and read sort of person, especially like when I come home after work and I just want to relax. I'll take a book and read in the bath. So yeah, I'm one of those, which is also why I have a Kindle Oasis, because that is waterproof and I don't have to worry about accidentally dropping my phone or iPad into the water. So question number 2 is bookmark or random piece of paper? So kind of neither. Let me see if I can find one of the books I'm currently reading. So I use money as a bookmarks. I always have used money as bookmarks ever since I was little. I used to use it like to save my money. When I got my allowance from my parents or anything, I would save my money by putting it as bookmarks. And it's just it's the perfect size to be a bookmark. And I mean, it's $1. It's cheaper than actually buying a bookmark, so that's why I use money. But in the past, when I used those bookmarks, it was definitely more than just single dollar bills that I used. Now I just use $1 bills. Question number 3 is, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain number of pages? This is interesting because I read a lot on audio, and when it comes to audiobooks, I can just stop like in the middle of a sentence and then pick it up later. Usually I'll go back like a few seconds if it's like in the middle of a sentence and not the end of a chapter or something like that. When it comes to physical books, I always try to finish at least the scene that I'm reading. I don't always succeed in that. Like, there are occasionally times where like I'll be like really bored or just tired or just getting distracted easily, in which case I'll just put the book down, but usually I'll restart that chapter or scene when I continue reading when it's a physical book, while in audiobooks, for some reason, I could just pick up like in the middle of a sentence for the most part. So that's kind of an interesting question. I actually really like that question. So question number 4 is, do you eat or drink while reading? So drink 100%. Like, I always drink like coffee or tea or just water while I'm reading. I used to eat while I was reading a lot, and sometimes I still do. Definitely when I'm listening to an audiobook, like I'll listen to an audiobook when I'm doing pretty much anything. But when it comes to physical books, I've kind of stopped eating while I read physical books. I'd rather just pull out like my iPad and watch an episode of a TV show or listen to an audiobook or something like that while I'm eating. And I think part of it is just I want my hands kind of free to eat, and I don't want to dirty the books. But when I was little, I used to eat while I was reading physical books all the time. Like, I used to do it all the time, mostly because I didn't want to eat and I just wanted to read, but I had to eat, so I would put the book on the table with me. So question number 5 is multitasking, music or TV? No, 100% no. Like, especially when it comes to physical reading, like I will not listen to music. I might put on like a background noise generator or something like that, where they have like that white noise or like ocean sounds or something like that in the background, but not music. Definitely not music, and definitely not TV. I'm way too easily distracted for that. When it comes to audiobooks though, I will do other things while I listen to audiobooks. Like, I'll do the dishes, or I'll cook, or I'll drive, or just random things while I listen to audiobooks. Sometimes I play games while I listen to audiobooks. So that doesn't bother me, multitasking while listening to audiobooks, but while like physically reading, I definitely will not listen to music or watch TV. Question number 6 is, one book at a time or several at once? If you've been watching my channel at all, then you'll know I definitely read several books at once. Until today, which I finished 2 books today, I was reading like 7 books at once. I'm down to 5 right now, and I hope I'm finishing another one later tonight. that'll get me down to 4, but I might actually start one also, so I'll be back to 5 books at the same time. If you had asked me this same question like 5 years ago, I would have been like, how can you read more than one book at once? But like now I completely understand it, because usually I read a lot of high fantasy books, but I'm not always in the mood for something high fantasy. Sometimes I just want to pick up something easy and light to read, and it's nice to have another book I'm already in the middle of that's easy to get into. And then other times there's the formatting that makes a difference. Like for example, like if I don't have the audiobook for a physical book that I'm reading, then I'll switch to an audiobook when I have time to listen to audiobook, but I don't have time to read physically, and then vice versa as well. And then ebooks usually come in when I'm like in public and I'm waiting for something. I can pull out my phone and read an ebook, where it'd be kind of weird sometimes to like pull out a physical book, you know what I mean? And if I like don't have headphones on me to listen to an audiobook, yeah, I use all the formats, and I like having different genres open at once, which is funny to say because right now I think most of the books I'm reading are fantasy books, but they are different formats. Like I'm reading one ebook right now, a couple physical books, one book that I can go between the physical and the audiobook, and then one audiobook. So question number 7, reading at home or everywhere. So if we're talking audiobooks, everywhere. Like I will literally go to the grocery store and have my headphones on listening to audiobooks. If we're talking physical books, definitely at home. I can't think of a time where I specifically took a physical book out in public to read, unless it was like on an airplane or something like that, which honestly I don't think that really counts because everyone reads on airplanes. So yeah, definitely at home. So question number 8, reading out loud or silently in your head. I think this is a very interesting question because typically I read silently in my head, like 100%. But ever since I started picking up audiobooks, I have occasionally read out loud to myself, especially for a book that I don't have the audiobook for and I'm having difficulty with the physical book. I've read it out loud to myself. One notable mention I would say with that is A Court of Thorns and Roses. Like that book I found to be incredibly boring. The first time around, I wanted to get through it so that I could read the second book because everyone seemed to like the second book in that series. And at the same time, I happened to be listening to the audiobook for The Help by Catherine Stockett, which is set in the Deep South, and everyone in the audiobook has Southern accents. So while I was listening to that audiobook, afterwards I would go and physically read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and in my head I kept thinking of them with Southern accents, so I would read the book out loud to myself with Southern accents because it was just kind of funny, but at the same time it helped me get through the book and made me enjoy the reading experience a lot more than if I had just been reading it silently to myself. But for the most part, except for a couple exceptions, I 100% read silently to myself. So chapter 9, do you read ahead or skip pages? No. Who does that? If you skip pages, would you even know what's going on? Like, it doesn't really make sense. There is one notable exception to that, in my opinion, and that's rereading. I think it's perfectly okay to skip pages when you're rereading, especially if you plan on going back and reading those pages, or like if you already know those storylines. I wouldn't necessarily count that as like rereading the book fully. With one series in particular, I skip ahead all the time while I'm rereading it, and that's A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Like whenever I'm rereading that series, I find myself skipping ahead and reading a chapter, maybe going back. Like I read it in all kinds of orders. I almost never read it chronologically when I'm rereading it. The first time around, I did read it completely chronologically though, so don't worry. But for some reason in that series, I just read it all out of orders when I'm rereading. Unless I'm listening to the audiobook, in which case I don't skip around when I'm listening to the audiobook, because that's kind of weird. Question number 10, break the spine or keeping it like new. 100% keeping it like new. Like occasionally I do accidentally break the spine, especially since I have a lot of mass market paperbacks and they're usually large high fantasy books, in which case it takes me a while to read it, so the spine ends up breaking on its own because mass market paperbacks are pretty cheap and they break easily. But for the most part, I try not to break the spine. I like my books looking new, and a lot of times when I do accidentally break the spine, I end up buying another copy of it so that I have a newer copy that I could use that is not already broken. And number 11, do you write in your books? That is a hard no for me. I do not write in any of my books. I do occasionally want to annotate books, and if I do want to annotate books, I will generally buy a separate copy of the book specifically to annotate it. But overall, all, I don't like to write in my books at all. This is half the reason that I don't get used books as often as I would like to, because I'm worried about books coming already written in. So like, I will buy used books, like if it's at my library book sale or a used bookstore where I can like flip through the book and see if there's writing in it, but I will almost never buy used books online because of that, because I just really don't like it when people write in books, unless it's like specifically for a reason, like if you're annotating the entire book, in which case I still would want 2 copies of that book, one that is not written in and then one that's annotated. I haven't yet actually done that, but I have bought the entire Harry Potter series in a second copy in order to do that, which I'm planning on doing later this year. Okay, so now for tagging people. I always forget to tag people. Thankfully, I remembered this time. So for this tag, I'm gonna be tagging The Bookish Mom, One Sleepy Reader, The Paper Traveler, and That's So Poe. So if any of you guys are watching, consider yourself tagged, and if you want to do this video and I didn't tag you, feel free to do this video and let me know down in the comments, because I would love to watch your video too. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.